Okay, today is May 28th. It's just about 2 months since I made my first video about my hydroponic tomatoes. As you can see, they've grown a good bit. I've also, since my last video, have installed these little support systems for them, which is nothing more than 2x4s spaced, one on each end and one in the middle. They're approximately 5 feet long, and up on top of them I have put a piece of gray PVC pipe. I actually used PVC conduit. It's a little bit cheaper than the pipe is. But I've gotten excellent growth on these plants. 2 months after planting them, I see very little sign of any diseases, very little sign of any insect damage. I have yet to spray them with any kind of pesticide whatsoever. And while it's running, I'm going to go ahead and zero in here on my water reservoir. You can see the water returning to my reservoir. This reservoir is actually nothing more than about 2/3 of a 55-gallon plastic barrel that I buried into the ground to help keep the water a little bit cooler, and also to get it low enough so that I can run my return line into it. But I got a total of 24 plants in all my years of growing, gardening tomato plants. I've never had plants that have looked this healthy. First off, I want to tell you what kind of plants I'm growing this year. I got stoop ice, and I can actually zero in on the stoop ice because it's on this end. This is it. It's a old-timey potato leaf variety of tomato. It's an early tomato. I don't know honestly if I would ever grow it again under these conditions. It seems to get very leggy, and the fruit doesn't set a whole lot of fruit compared to some of the other ones. So I got stoop ice, mountain gem, mountain glory, mountain magic, mountain merit, Amelia, some German Johnsons, and the German Johnsons I can zero in on too. I got these in a lot later than the others because I had to order the seeds. I didn't have them on hand, but they're doing real well. That's these last two over here. They got little tomatoes on them. And sorry, but you're gonna have to kind of bear with me. I'm due to foot injury, I'm on crutches, not able to put any weight on my right foot, so the view today is going to be a little bit limited, a little bit spotty. I also have Better Boys, Ramblin' Red Stripe, the Arkansas Traveler, German Johnson, and finally Amelia. I get a lot of tomatoes here that are immune to the tomato spotted wilt virus because I've had some real bad problems with it in the past. I don't see any signs of it on any of my plants here, but a couple other areas that I've planted in my garden in the soil, I do have the tomato spotted wilt virus again this year, so I know it's still present in this area. It hasn't magically gone away. Today I wanted to cover a few quick notes for you on hydroponics. First of all, in general, it's a lot of work. It's actually a lot more work than I think anyway, than just planting your tomato plants in the ground and staking them up, throwing some 10-10-10 fertilizer on them and walking away from them. I've got to fill this reservoir every day with about 25 gallons of water just in order right now to keep up with these tomato plants. Which brings me to another point. This reservoir, although it's about 30 gallons capacity, is too small. Next year, if I do the hydroponics, I'm going to go to Tractor Supply and get one of those watering troughs that hold about, I don't know, somewhere probably around 70 gallons. and that way I can go a couple of days without having to worry about filling my reservoir up. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Hydroponic tomatoes, they do great, but they are a lot of work. They're not they're not work free, that's for sure. About the only thing you can say about them is as long as you keep that reservoir filled up, and if you got it on a timer the way I do for your pump, you don't have to worry about watering. The pump and the timer will take care of the watering the plants for you. Also wanted to mention that when I put was mixing up my medium, a lot of people use perlite. Well, last year the folks at the garden center where I buy my supplies, they mixed up perlite with vermiculite, and I got a bag of vermiculite, and because the town was about 40 miles away, I decided I didn't want to travel back over there to exchange it. This year, in order to use some of that stuff up, I actually mixed vermiculite into perlite, and it seems to be doing just fine. Those tomato plants haven't missed a beat. And I did that 3-to-1 ratio, 3 being the perlite and 1 being the vermiculite. And those seem to be doing just as well as the plants that were grown in straight perlite. Another thing I wanted to mention is tomato clips. The first tomato clips I bought, got them on eBay from an American seller. They were pretty good clips. They do take some getting used to. Any of the tomato clips do, but once you get the hang of it, they're pretty simple to use, easy to use, and they'll definitely hold your tomato plants upright. This year, actually this past winter, I went ahead and ordered some more tomato clips. I ordered it from a Chinese vendor on eBay. You can get the clips for about half the price or less than you can if you buy them directly from American sellers. Problem is, the clips are not as good quality. You get some that are unusable. They're just not as good a quality. You can tell by looking at them. They're not going to hold up as long. If you save them from year to year, you might get a year or two less use out of them than you do the American clips. So, you know, the old saying that you get what you pay for applies here as well. If you are just kind of experimenting and don't know if you're going to go into this hydroponic tomato growing whole hog, then you might want to just go ahead and get some of the cheap ones. But remember, when they're coming from overseas, no telling when you're going to get them. It took me about a month from the time I ordered to get them. I also wanted to just mention what I'm using as a growing medium, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and try to get up and move so you can get a little bit different angle, so I don't bore you too much with viewing the same thing here. Might get a few shots of the ground, so remember, I'm really going to get around here. While I'm over here, give you a little shot of my little side garden here. I got some tomatoes and peppers. Here's a pepper plant right here in the center of the frame that I've grown for quite a few years. You may want to try that if you haven't before. It's called a padrone. These are great little peppers. You want to pick them when they're very small though, otherwise you will get a stupendous amount of heat out of them. They're much hotter than a jalapeno when they get big. You want to pick them when they're only an inch or two long. And these little peppers are great for frying. You just pick them up, rinse them off, put them in the frying pan and fry them in straight olive oil, kind of slow fry them. And they are absolutely delicious like that. Alright, let's see if I can get some more shots of my hydroponic setup. And I apologize for this, but wasn't planning on busting my foot. And I wanted to get some shots of my plants. Okay, here's my setup again. And let's zoom in. You can see the fruit is loaded up pretty good on these plants. These tomato plants up on this end are mostly some of those in the mountain series. Probably mountain merits is what you're looking at. And next year I may be doing a little bit more pruning of my plants. These things have gotten totally nuts as far as growth. I've actually cut back on the amount of calcium nitrate fertilizer I'm putting on these in hopes that it will cut back on the amount of growth. Don't want a lot of growth of the plants, I want a lot of growth of tomatoes. And I realize tomatoes need some calcium nitrate, but the plants might be getting a little bit too much. They're going nuts. I don't know, maybe this is the way hydroponics always works. I did do some suckering of my plants earlier this year, especially the old-time varieties like the German Johnsons. But I may not have done enough to my determinant type tomatoes like the mountain series. I do use the Master Blend tomato fertilizer. I mix it up according to the manufacturer's recommendations, which is basically 2 teaspoons of Master Blend per 5 gallons of water, and 2 teaspoons of calcium nitrate, and 1 teaspoon of Epsom salt. And I mix all 3 of those chemicals in different containers, then add that to my 5-gallon bucket of water. And as I said, I've actually cut back by about a teaspoon per 25 gallons of calcium nitrate, because I'm mixing up about 25 gallons a day now. And normally for 25 gallons you'd use about 10 teaspoons of calcium nitrate, and I've cut back to 9 teaspoons in hopes that my plants themselves stop this so much top growth and I get more tomatoes. Trying to think of anything else I can talk to you about today, give you some hints. Again, this may be a little bit better picture from this angle. Here's my support system, just basically running twine off of this piece of PVC conduit. PVC conduit is fairly inexpensive compared to the PVC pipe that's got a contain of pressure. And I've actually cut my 2x4s so that they've got the same shape as that PVC pipe. I just used a little hole saw that I have to do that, and it holds it in there nicely, although I did drive some screws down through from the top as well in order to hold it in place. Alright, that's about all I've got for you today.